What if I told you the foods you've been eating every day, the ones you thought were safe, maybe even healthy, could be quietly wrecking your heart from the inside out? Not with dramatic warning signs, not with pain you can immediately feel, but with slow, silent damage that builds over time until one day it's too late. We're talking about heart disease, the #1 killer in the world, and the surprising everyday foods that are fueling it. Each year, cardiovascular disease takes the lives of over 18 million people worldwide. That's twice as many deaths as cancer, and the numbers are still climbing. And what's truly alarming is this: most of these cases could have been prevented. The real culprit? Not genetics, not bad luck, but something far more ordinary: our food. Yes, the way we eat, day in and day out, is silently shaping the health of our hearts. Some people suffer heart attacks when the blood flow to the heart is blocked. Others experience strokes when a clot or a bleed disrupts oxygen to the brain. Both fall under one terrifying umbrella: cardiovascular disease. And here's where it gets tricky. Because while everyone agrees that food is at the root of heart disease, almost no one agrees on which foods are to blame. One source says fat is the enemy. Another says sugar. A third tells you to eat more whole grains, while the next says to cut them out completely. Confused yet? You're not alone. And that's exactly why I created this video. Not to throw more conflicting opinions at you, but to finally cut through the noise and explain what really causes heart disease, and what foods are quietly fueling it. We're not going to rely on old myths or vague headlines. We're going to break it down, step by step, starting from the damage itself, and tracing it all the way back to the foods you put on your plate. First, we will look at the mechanism that causes cardiovascular disease. When we think of heart disease, most of us imagine clogged arteries, heart attacks, or strokes, sudden, life-altering events. But what if I told you that those events are actually the final domino in a long chain reaction? One that starts with a kind of invisible injury? At the root of heart disease lies something deceptively simple: damaged blood vessels, tiny cracks, inflammation, and microscopic stress inside the arteries. These are the real beginning of a very dangerous story. So what causes that damage? The answer boils down to two major culprits: inflammation and oxidative stress. These are like slow-burning fires inside your vascular system, quietly weakening your artery walls day after day. And left unchecked, your body tries to repair that damage by forming plaque, a sticky buildup that eventually narrows or blocks the vessels. That's when disaster strikes: heart attack if it's in the chest, stroke if it's in the brain. But here's the real twist. The true trigger behind this entire chain reaction is something most people never suspect: insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance isn't a disease by itself. It's a response, a temporary adaptation by your body to constant overload, especially from too much sugar and too many refined carbohydrates. It's your body saying, "I've had enough." Cells stop responding to insulin the way they should, and sugar starts building up in the blood. That buildup doesn't just affect your blood sugar, it fuels inflammation. And inflammation, in turn, starts to damage the inside of your arteries, slowly, silently, relentlessly. From there, the cycle spirals: insulin resistance, inflammation, vascular damage, plaque buildup, blockage, heart attack, or stroke. It's not just one thing. It's a system breakdown, and it all begins with what's on your plate. So if we truly want to protect our hearts, we can't just treat symptoms. We have to understand which foods are driving this entire process and stop the damage at its source. Let's start with a food that's often seen as harmless, even comforting: rice. Simple, familiar, a staple on plates around the world. It's the heart of countless traditional meals, from sushi to stir-fry to curry bowls. But behind its warm, fluffy exterior lies a hidden threat, especially for your heart. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Rice is pure starch. And starch is just long chains of glucose, the very sugar that spikes your blood sugar the moment it hits your bloodstream. In fact, your body breaks down rice into glucose almost as fast as it would with table sugar. Now imagine eating that rice every day, with every meal, year after year. At first, your body copes. Insulin, the hormone that helps shuttle sugar into your cells, rises to meet the demand. But over time, something shifts. Your cells stop responding, your insulin keeps rising, and you enter a dangerous state we call insulin resistance. And remember what we said earlier. Insulin resistance isn't just a blood sugar issue. It's the match that lights the fire of inflammation and vascular damage. So while rice might seem innocent when eaten in large quantities, especially alongside a modern diet full of processed food and sugar, it becomes a massive contributor to the heart disease cycle. You might ask, but what about Asia? People in Japan or China have eaten rice for centuries and lived long, healthy lives, right? Yes. But here's the key difference. Historically, people in those regions were physically active, ate smaller portions, and didn't consume processed snacks, soft drinks, and sugary sauces on top of their rice. Their rice meals were balanced, seasonal, and modest, not overloaded with hidden sugars and oils like today's fast food culture. But in today's world, where most people are sedentary, insulin-resistant, and already struggling with metabolic health, rice is no longer so harmless. It may not cause the issue at first, but it will definitely keep you stuck in the cycle, preventing healing and pushing your heart closer to danger. So if rice can spike blood sugar and fuel inflammation, what happens when we move on to something even more refined, something baked, fluffy, and everywhere? Let's talk about bread. If rice is a slow-burning sugar bomb, bread is its quicker, sneakier cousin, softer, fluffier, and often worse. For your heart. Think about it. Toast in the morning, sandwiches at lunch, a dinner roll with your evening meal. Bread is everywhere, and it's been marketed as a wholesome staple for decades. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Bread is just another form of sugar, dressed up in whole wheat clothing. Just like rice, bread is made from starch, long chains of glucose. But because it's ground into fine flour, it digests even faster. That means blood sugar spikes, insulin surges, and, over time, the perfect recipe for insulin resistance. But bread doesn't stop there. Unlike rice, which is relatively simple, bread comes with extra baggage. And we're not just talking about butter. We're talking about gluten, a protein found in wheat that many people struggle to digest. Even if you don't have full-blown celiac disease, gluten sensitivity can still wreak havoc on your gut health, leading to low-grade inflammation that silently fuels the progression of heart disease. Inflamed gut, inflamed blood vessels, it's all connected. And let's not forget, bread is often paired with sugary jams, processed deli meats, seed oil-laden spreads, and served as part of meals that include chips, soda, or sweetened sauces. So the damage doesn't happen in isolation. It's part of a bigger storm of dietary stress, even worse. When people think they're doing better by switching to gluten-free bread, they're often just replacing wheat with other starches, like rice flour, tapioca, or sorghum. Guess what? Those break down into glucose just the same. So, whether it's white bread, whole grain, or gluten-free, the impact on blood sugar and inflammation is still there. It's just marketed differently. If something as common as bread can be this harmful to your cardiovascular health, what happens when we add something even more toxic? Something that only your liver can process? Let's take a hard look at alcohol. Some say it's heart healthy in moderation. Others say it's poison in any amount. So what's the truth? To be fair, alcohol is natural. In small doses, the human body can handle it. We even have a built-in enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase, that helps break it down. But that ability isn't unlimited. And here's the key. Only your liver can process alcohol. That means once you pour a drink, it circulates through every cell in your body. But only your liver has the tools to actually detoxify and get rid of it. And when that liver gets overwhelmed, whether by too many drinks or too frequent indulgence, it begins to store fat. This leads to what we now call fatty liver disease. And while it used to be linked mainly to heavy drinking, today most cases are actually non-alcoholic fatty liver, driven by excess sugar and fructose. But whether it's from wine or soda, the result is the same. A fatty liver becomes insulin resistant. And as we've already uncovered, insulin resistance is the very engine behind inflammation, vascular damage, and, ultimately, heart disease. So where does alcohol fit in? Alcohol, when consumed in large or frequent quantities, adds a heavy burden to the liver, making it harder for the body to regulate insulin and fat metabolism. Over time, this sets the stage for more systemic metabolic dysfunction, especially in the abdominal region, where fat surrounding vital organs becomes dangerously active. Now, does that mean you can never enjoy a drink again? Not necessarily. If you do choose to drink, quality and quantity matter. Liquor, like gin, vodka, whiskey, tends to be lowest in sugar because it's distilled. Wine is fermented, with sugar from grapes, mostly consumed by yeast, making it a slightly better choice. Beer, made from grains and malt, is high in carbs and less forgiving. Mixed drinks, on the other hand, are a metabolic disaster. You get alcohol and added sugar, both of which strain your liver. So while a glass of wine here and there may not be harmful for a healthy person, for someone already struggling with insulin resistance, fatty liver, or heart risk factors, alcohol becomes one more log on the fire. Now let's take a look at something that may be even more dangerous than sugar or alcohol: ultra-processed foods. They're shiny. They're convenient. They're everywhere. Boxes, bags, frozen trays, brightly colored wrappers screaming low-fat, gluten-free, or heart-healthy. But behind the marketing, these so-called modern miracles are quietly destroying your metabolism and your heart. What exactly are ultra-processed foods? In short, they're not food anymore. These are factory-engineered creations, stripped of nutrients, stuffed with chemicals, and reassembled for taste, shelf life, and addictiveness. They often start with something that used to be food: grains, corn, soy, oils. But after being ground, bleached, refined, fried, sweetened, preserved, and colored, what's left is a calorie bomb with zero real nourishment. Here's the shocking part. In the US, over 73% of the average person's diet comes from ultra-processed foods. That means most people are fueling their bodies on empty, inflammatory calories every single day. And what do these foods all have in common? Refined sugars, which spike insulin; refined starches, which break down to glucose instantly; seed oils, which fuel inflammation; artificial additives, which confuse your body's hunger and fullness signals; and worst of all, they're designed to be addictive. Yes, entire industries exist solely to engineer food products that bypass your brain's natural stop signals. The perfect crunch, the melt-in-your-mouth texture, the irresistible salty-sweet combo. Your body isn't equipped to fight it, and so we eat more, and more, and more. What's the result? Chronic overfeeding, nutrient deficiency. Fat storage around the organs, insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative stress. Sound familiar? This is how ultra-processed foods become a silent contributor to the global epidemic of heart disease, not through one ingredient, but through a devastating combination of metabolic disruptors. And if ultra-processed foods are the king of chaos in modern diets, what about their most convenient cousin, fast food? Fast food, the crown jewel of modern convenience. Burgers, fries, nuggets, sodas, shakes. It all looks like food, smells like food, and fills you up like food. But here's the hard truth. Most fast food is not real food. It's a collection of the worst offenders we've talked about, combined into one meal. Let's break it down. That burger? The patty may contain some protein, but it's often low-quality meat laced with fillers and preservatives. The bun? It's pure refined starch, spiking your blood sugar like a candy bar. And don't forget the high-fructose corn syrup baked right into it. The sauce? Loaded with seed oils, sugar, and chemical flavorings, designed to make you crave more. The fries? Potatoes, yes. But they're deep-fried in toxic vegetable oils, often reheated and reused all day long, creating oxidized fats that inflame your arteries and damage your cells. And to wash it all down? A soda, pure liquid sugar, or worse, a milkshake that combines sugar, seed oil derivatives, and artificial flavors into one metabolic wrecking ball. It gets even more shocking when you look at the macros of a typical fast food meal. In one experiment, I ate 2,500 calories per day, but from clean protein sources like beef patties and salads. Now compare that to 2,500 calories from a fast food combo, over 300 grams of carbohydrates, more than 150 grams of added sugar, and low protein, mostly from processed sources. The numbers might fit the recommended macro ratios: 65% carbs, 25% fat, 10% protein, but the quality is devastatingly poor. The result? You feel full for a moment, but your blood sugar crashes, your cravings spike, your body stores fat. Over time, your metabolism breaks down, your insulin resistance worsens, and your risk of heart disease skyrockets. And this isn't a rare treat anymore. For many, it's a daily way of life. But fast food is just the beginning. What if I told you the most damaging ingredient in the entire modern food supply is hiding in almost every processed product on store shelves? It's time we talk about seed oils and why they might be one of the most inflammatory substances you consume. They're marketed as heart-healthy. They come from plants. They're used in everything from salad dressings to protein bars to baby food. But what if I told you that some of the most common oils in your kitchen, the ones with labels like vegetable oil, canola oil, or soybean oil, are among the most inflammatory substances you could put in your body? Let's uncover the truth about seed oils. Now, not all oils are created equal. Extra virgin olive oil? That's a traditional fat pressed gently from fruit, rich in antioxidants and healthy monounsaturated fats. But seed oils? They're something entirely different. To get oil from a seed, like soy, corn, or canola, you need extreme processing, intense pressure, high heat, and chemical solvents like hexane or acetone to extract the fat once extracted. The oil is rancid, bitter, and unstable, so it must be bleached, deodorized, and treated again just to be usable. What you end up with is a bland, shelf-stable oil, perfect for manufacturers, terrible for your body. These oils are sky-high in omega-6 fatty acids, which in balance are necessary, but in excess, they're pro-inflammatory. And thanks to modern diets, the average ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is no longer the ideal 1.1. It's closer to 20.1 or even 50.1. What does that mean? Chronic systemic inflammation, the kind that damages artery walls, triggers immune overreactions, and lays the groundwork for plaque buildup and heart disease. Even worse? Seed oils oxidize very easily, especially when heated, like in frying. When you consume oxidized fats, they generate free radicals in your body, unstable molecules that directly damage your cells, your DNA, and your blood vessels, and it doesn't stop there. Most processed foods are packed with these oils. Chips, crackers, mayonnaise, granola bars, baked goods, salad dressings. Even foods labeled healthy or organic often use canola oil or sunflower oil as a base. And the scariest part? These oils don't just affect your heart. They can interfere with mitochondrial function, slow your metabolism, and increase your risk for conditions far beyond cardiovascular disease. including obesity, cognitive decline, and certain cancers. So, what happens when you take these unstable oils and then reheat them over and over at high temperatures, day after day, in commercial kitchens? Let's talk about fried foods and how they turn a bad situation into something far worse. There's something undeniably satisfying about the crunch of fried food. Golden, crispy edges, warm, salty comfort. Whether it's fries, chicken tenders, onion rings, or tempura, fried food is a guilty pleasure for millions. But behind that satisfying bite hides a metabolic time bomb. Now here's the thing. It's not just the act of frying that's the problem. It's what we're frying in, and how often we reuse it. Let's go back to the seed oils we just talked about. Canola, soybean, corn oil. The cheap, heavily processed oils used in nearly every fryer across the country. These oils are already unstable and oxidized when you buy them. But when you heat them to high temperatures, then reheat them again and again throughout the day, they become toxic. Each time they're used, the fats break down further. They create trans fats, acrylamides, and advanced lipid oxidation products, all of which trigger oxidative stress in your body. This isn't just a theory. Studies show these compounds contribute to inflammation, arterial damage, and cellular dysfunction. So every time you eat something fried, whether it's a crispy chicken wing, a fried snack from the gas station, or even something that seems vegetarian like fried zucchini, you're ingesting a mix of damaged fats and inflammatory molecules that your body now has to deal with. And the impact is real. Your arteries stiffen. Your insulin sensitivity declines. Your cholesterol profile shifts toward the dangerous kind. Your cells age faster. Now, does that mean frying food is always evil? Not necessarily. It depends on the oil. Traditional fats like tallow, lard, or coconut oil are heat-stable and far less likely to oxidize. These were the oils used by previous generations before the rise of seed oil dominance. So yes, you could pan-fry something occasionally in coconut oil and not destroy your health. But the deep fryers at your local fast food chain? Those are filled with cheap industrial oils, heated all day long, used for batch after batch after batch, and that's the real danger. If fried food combines the worst of oxidized fats and inflammation, what happens when we take it a step further and turn those very same oils into a fake, spreadable butter substitute? Let's expose the truth about margarine and why it's not the healthy choice we were once promised. For decades, we were told that butter was the enemy. Too much saturated fat, they said. Too dangerous for your heart. So what did we do? And we reached for the healthier option, margarine. Smooth, spreadable, promoted as heart-friendly. But behind the smiling labels and buttery texture lies one of the biggest nutrition mistakes of the modern era. Margarine is not just a butter substitute. It's a chemically engineered fat made primarily from the same industrial seed oils we've already exposed as inflammatory. But here's the twist. To turn liquid oil into something solid and spreadable, manufacturers had to alter the structure of fat itself through a process called hydrogenation. What does that mean for your body? Hydrogenation creates trans fats, artificial fats that are so damaging they've been banned or heavily restricted in many countries. Why? Because trans fats literally poison your mitochondria, the tiny engines inside your cells that produce 95% of your body's energy. When mitochondria get damaged, your energy crashes, your cells malfunction, and your body becomes more vulnerable to oxidative stress, inflammation, and, yes, cardiovascular disease. Even today, many margarines still contain partially hydrogenated oils, despite flashy labels claiming trans fat free. How is that possible? Well, food labeling laws allow companies to round down to zero if the product contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving. So they shrink the serving size, hide the trans fat on the label, and you keep spreading that heart-healthy promise on your toast every morning. And here's the worst part. You're not just getting dangerous fats, you're getting them in a manipulated form your body doesn't recognize. Fats that disrupt hormone signaling, weaken immune response, and interfere with your body's ability to repair itself. Some brands have improved in recent years, using olive oil or avocado oil. But be careful. Most of those are not extra virgin oils, and they're still blended with refined seed oils to lower costs and neutralize flavor. In the end, margarine is a lab-born fat that masqueraded as a health food for generations and left a trail of damaged arteries in its wake. So if margarine taught us how far food engineering could go, what happens when you combine all the worst ingredients, sugar, refined flour, seed oil, deep frying, into one single, sweet, irresistible treat? That brings us to donuts, golden, fluffy, coated in sugar. It calls to you from bakery shelves and office break rooms. A moment of comfort, a treat. But under that sweet glaze hides one of the most dangerous combinations of ingredients your heart will ever face. Let's break it down. Sugar? Plenty of it, both inside and out. Refined flour? Absolutely. Pure starch that breaks down into glucose in minutes. Gluten? Present, and for many, a trigger for gut inflammation and immune reactivity. Seed oils? You bet, baked into the dough, then superheated when deep fried. Donuts are often fried in reused industrial oils, the kind that oxidize, degrade, and create toxic byproducts with every batch. So you're not just eating sugar and flour, you're ingesting oxidized fats, acrylamides, and inflammatory agents with each bite. But here's what makes donuts especially dangerous. They don't just harm you, they hook you, the perfect balance of fat and sugar lights up the reward centers in your brain, much like drugs. That's not an exaggeration. Research shows that this exact combination is uniquely addictive, making it hard to stop at just one. You're not just fighting willpower. You're fighting biology, and of course, donuts don't come alone. They're often eaten alongside coffee loaded with sugar, or as part of a high-carb breakfast that sends your blood sugar into orbit, only to crash hard hours later, leaving you tired, irritable, and craving more. The damage? Spiked insulin, increased belly fat, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and eventually plaque formation in arteries. One donut won't kill you, just like one cigarette won't give you lung cancer. But the habit? The repetition? That's where the real threat lies. So if donuts are the deadly dessert that combines all the worst elements, what could possibly be worse? It's not fried. It's not even always obvious. But it's everywhere. In sauces, drinks, cereal, yogurt, even healthy snacks. Let's talk about the #1 most dangerous food for your heart, sugar. It's in everything. It hides in healthy foods like granola, yogurt, protein shakes, and fruit juice. It sweetens your barbecue sauce, your salad dressing, your bread, your morning cereal, even your so-called sugar-free snacks. And here's the dangerous part. Unlike alcohol, where you might feel when you've had too much, sugar doesn't send a clear signal. You drink a soda, then another. You nibble a muffin, then a cookie, and before you know it, your body is swimming in glucose and fructose, sugars that fuel inflammation, insulin resistance, and fatty liver, all of which quietly damage your heart, especially fructose, the sweet half of table sugar and high fructose corn syrup. It acts almost exactly like alcohol in the body. Only your liver can metabolize it, and when it's overwhelmed, it turns that sugar into fat, stored deep in the liver, around your organs, and eventually throughout your body. This is how we develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a condition once rare, now shockingly common even in children, and a major stepping stone toward metabolic syndrome and heart disease. But the real problem with sugar isn't just physiological. It's psychological. Sugar is addictive. The more you eat, the more you crave. Your brain gets flooded with dopamine. Your body learns to chase the next fix. And because sugar never fills you up, you just keep going. No fullness, no satisfaction, just a constant loop of cravings, crashes, and damage. Every cookie, every sip, every drizzle, each one adding to a slow-burning fire that you can't see until it's too late. Closing thoughts. So here's the truth. Most of the foods you've been told are dangerous, like eggs, butter, or red meat, are not the true culprits behind heart disease. The real villains are sugar, seed oils, refined starches, and the ultra-processed combinations that flood our modern diets. But now that you know the mechanisms, now that you understand how food affects your blood vessels, your liver, your metabolism, you're not at the mercy of marketing anymore. You're in control. Now that we've peeled back the layers of the top 10 foods that are silently destroying your heart, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. Because here's the part that might surprise you most. The foods you've been warned about for years, butter, eggs, red meat, saturated fat, aren't the true villains. In fact, when eaten as part of a whole, unprocessed diet, these traditional foods can be neutral or even beneficial for your health. What really matters is what you combine them with. An egg cooked in coconut oil alongside fresh greens. That's nourishment. But the same egg sandwiched in a sugary bun, layered with processed cheese and a side of fries? That's inflammation waiting to happen. The true danger lies in the modern cocktail of refined carbohydrates, added sugars, industrial seed oils, and ultra-processed convenience meals. These foods fuel the cycle of insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and oxidative stress, the very mechanisms that quietly attack your arteries and set the stage for heart disease. So if you want to protect your heart and your future, the path forward isn't fear or restriction. It's understanding. Understand how your body works. Understand which foods promote healing and which quietly erode your health over time. And most of all, understand that the power to change doesn't lie in trends or fads. It lies in the choices you make, one meal at a time. And if you'd like more clear, science-based tips that actually make a difference, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your health begins with knowledge. Let's keep learning, making better choices, and living more fully, one mindful bite at a time.